right. So this brings me to segment 3, which is teaching planning without being their planner. And I'm, it's so funny. I wrote, this is where teachers burn out. I mean, you're already probably burnt out 100 times over from 100 different things, but this is definitely something that really upsets teachers and myself included, where you've done the plan for them, but it's too much because you've had to make 27, 28 different plans for your classroom because every student needs a different plan, right? So don't do the planning for the students, okay? I need you to really resist the temptation to fill out their planning sheets because then you're just exhausted, and we really need to just shift it. Model the thinking. Think alouds are so important. Model the thinking. Do not own the thinking. Do not pretend you know what they're thinking, or, if you do know what they're thinking, don't tell them what they're thinking. It's just a recipe for disaster. So instead of handing them a filled in graphic organizer, you've got to narrate it. Okay, you're at the whiteboard. You've got it on. Maybe you've got it projected on, or you've drawn it on. I draw it on. And I'm just saying, okay, you know what? I'm not sure what my first idea should be. So I'm going to look back at the question. I actually teach this too with my reading, with my older grades. I'm like, why don't we look at the questions first and then read the text? Because I say older grades, this is like grade 2, grade 3, because they're not proficient readers, and that's okay. But they still need to learn that reading is for many different things. And so I still want them to learn you can get information from a text. And so I don't want them to read the whole text, read the questions, and then have to read the text again, because I actually just don't think that's fair. And I don't see how that creates a love of reading. So I teach them, let's look at the questions. Let's look at the first question. And let's read the first question. Okay, now we're going to read, and let's see if we can find where the answer to that question might be. So yeah, I think it's really important that we're not filling in these planners and we're saying out loud, okay, I'm going to go look back at the question, because you're teaching the internal dialogue. You're teaching what it means to be kind of learning and a student, and what does learning look like on the inside, okay? And then you're going to ask, what's your first micro step? Not what the whole plan is, micro step. And actually, I always talk about how I work with the most amazing and the smartest people ever, and I absolutely do. And I think it's always so important to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, because you will learn so much. And so I used to always think of this idea as micro, of zooming in, and I could never figure it out. And the one of my colleagues that I work with, she's so smart. She's like, I get a flashlight, and she'll put some of the she'll put words or information, whatever they're learning about, and she'll be like, okay, so now we've got the spotlight, let's zoom in with our flashlight so that we're not spiraling out. We are looking at what we need to look at. So we're training the brain to zoom in and not spiral out. And I think, I know that this is probably a bit of a spicy thing to say, because we're all here for the students, and we want to do our best for our students. But if you are always rescuing, then you're really reinforcing that helplessness, that learned helplessness. And support doesn't have to mean that you're substituting their learning for your knowledge, okay? You need to let them get there, and we all need to honor the process. And I know that that's easier said than done, because I know that it can take a long time. But that is also just part of that understanding what students already know, and can they activate their prior knowledge as well. So we really just need to see all of this, and we need to understand that learning does take time. And it's so hard to say this, because I know we have less than 10 months to get through an entire year's worth of curriculum, but at what disservice to students? You know, like students are going to read if they have a love of reading. Students are going to learn if they understand what the learning process is. And students are going to understand what the learning process is if we take the time to teach them what the learning process is. And like I said, this is for students with executive functioning challenges. And hopefully also you have other teachers who are coming in and helping, you know, maybe with a lunch group or different pull-out situations or push-in situations. And if not, then definitely please reach out to the teachers in your building to see, or in your wider community to see how they're handling that, because this is just supposed to be to kind of help the students in your classroom. These are like tier 1, 2 supports, and tier 3 supports would look different, and I do understand that.